So welcome everyone. This is 20th of Feb, 2023, Delivery Weekly. I'll let you all read the announcements yourselves. Discussion. Whose discussion item is this?
That's mine, I guess.
Perfect. Great,
so since we went through announcements, no, sorry, I forgot to add my name. Yeah, I discussed with Ahmed and Ruben the way how we want to track the deployments for this epic that kind of measure deployment efficiency and the pipeline efficiency. And we discussed that it would be good to have a dashboard for each deployment where we have all the info that is related to the deployment, and you can have like a select box and switch between deployments IDs and like have observability of each particular deployment. I've added the metric for deployment AMER lead time to metric server, and now I will, before actually adding these changes to release tool, I wanted to double check with team that that we are on the right track. So like we really want to have the dashboard that will show the info about like each particular deployment, and deployment might also have like multiple merge requests associated, and we track for each deployment, we track the merge requests lead time for each deployment, I would say. That means we need to add to this metric server, and we need to add to deployment kind of lead time metric. We need to add 2 additional labels, deployment ID and merge request ID. That might, create a bunch of additional metrics, time series. But Ruben mentioned that, and I looked at our kind of deployment cadency and compare it to metrics that we have, like in general. I found that, for example, the metrics for pods, where you can select like particular, like individual pods on production environment, it's kind of 100 times, has 100 times more metrics and time series that we expect to have by adding these IDs to the metric. What I kind of waiting for the feedback. Do we want to have it? Do we don't want to have it? And it will definitely increase the amount of time series, but not. I would expect that it will be like the time series DB will be exploded. So.
I have a question, Vladimir, because adding a label with the deployment ID, kind of, I can follow that idea, but you're thinking about adding a label for each merge request in each deployment or something like that? How do you plan to track the merge request level?
At add merge request label on the release tool side of the house, we will hit the API by the end of the pipeline, and list all associated merge requests and their start time. And for each merge request, we will send to the metric server the lead time for this merge request. And yes, they're gonna be additional label for the merge request as well. I honestly, I prefer to have more data rather than making assumptions and calculating averages on the pipeline side. So there are two options to achieve this, right? The first is to calculate the average lead time for the merge request on the pipeline and send only average to the metric server, or send the whole data and use Prometheus to calculate the averages, mean times, whatever. I honestly, I prefer to have like a second option. More data we have, more kind of visibility we're gonna have. But again, this is kind of, we need to find the balance. More time series. Can we tolerate more time series, or we have less visibility?
Okay, so if I understood correctly, after tracking a deployment in GitLab itself, it is possible to ask what merge requests were included in that one.
Yes.
And then you scroll through that list, and for each one you increase, I mean, none you increase, you set, because you're setting a value, the time it took, right? So I think this is a question that we'll find a better answer with other folks. Maybe Scalability has a lot of knowledge about this, or reliability in general, because I don't have enough knowledge on the topic to make a call about this. And because label coordination is a problem, right? So, but it depends on, it should depend on the time window of the query. So the number, the explosion, so the cardinality is in itself within the boundaries of the query. So how many times that value change in the time frame you are querying for. So I don't know if this is a problem.
Yeah, that's another kind of reason from my point of view. That's another reason not to worry, because amount of metrics in total doesn't really matter. What matters is what is the amount of time series within a kind of Prometheus retention period, right? Because everything else goes to Google bucket and store it in the Google bucket in Thanos.
Yeah.
But we are increasing time series, like operational time series, little bit. But kind of, it's not the same as add yet another metric to the pods themselves, because we are creating, destroying like hundreds or thousands of pods across the whole system. But here, I looked at the merge requests on gitlab.com code base, and we made like since the very beginning, we made like 83,000 merge requests to this to the GitLab code base itself. And I think even if we have 80,000 merge requests in a month, not in how many years GitLab exists, it is peanuts in comparison to what we tracking for pods, what we're tracking for the traffic, and etc. Because it's one time.
I mean,
it's not continuous.
No, yeah, I
right?
get your point, right? So even if you think a single deployment will have a label for the deployment itself, then a label for each merge request into it, but then that same deployment will trigger a Kubernetes deployment. So each cluster will have hundreds of pods, each one his own pod label. So it's kind of nothing compared to the number of metrics generated on the Prometheus side.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, I will repeat myself. I don't have enough knowledge of Prometheus to judge this proposal. So I mean, this is as much as I can tell you, right? So I do understand your reasoning, but
I think if you've got an issue, Vladimir, I'd suggest pinging someone from scalability, someone like Java from reliability, and asking for their thoughts.
Don't we have an observability team in foundations right now in reliability? I think they should be aware, take care of also these kind of problems. I have one question around that. How long is the current retention for the metrics, delivery metrics stuff?
I think it's forever. It gets downsampled, but we don't produce enough things to
get to
get
sampling.
downsampled. Yeah.
Okay.
No. Wait a second. Retention, like there are two retentions. The one retention in Prometheus itself, which runs on every single cluster, and another retention is on Thanos.
Okay. Yeah.
If you are talking forever, that you are talking about Thanos.
Thanos,
but what really matters is how many metrics and time series we have on Prometheus. Because if we have so many, then the memory will explode.
Does the retention on Thanos not matter at all?
No, it's designed for, long storage data.
We did have the same question when we were preparing the deployment SLO, and there is some data that I just put in the chat, and the retention, I think it is between 1 year and 5 years for Thanos.
No, it's forever. It's the last line, Myra. If you see, they do downsampling, right? You say raw data 1 year, then it's 5 minutes down, resample in 5 minutes for 5 years, and then resample on 1 hour forever. So depending on how often we populate those information, so deployments, for instance, they will just keep the same. They would never be resampled because you don't deploy more than once an hour.
Yeah, Thanos data doesn't matter from my point of view, because Thanos store it on Google buckets, and Google buckets cost peanuts. Like if you are storing like terabytes of data.
Cool. Should we move to release managers?
Okay, good morning. I'll share some things. Last week's release management was not terrible.
I have a question. Not terrible in, how they say, in UK or in the US? Amy is laughing.
I hope it's not UK measures. It's broadly working. We're all still alive.
Okay, so it's the US version of not
I
terrible.
hope
Okay.
so.
I think we have lost Scarbook. When he started sharing the screen, it froze.
It's probably chatting away, telling us all about the metrics.
Let's see if he comes back.
I was going to say, it's a question of whether he just got dropped off or whether it was like a fatal internet. That was it. He's used all of his internet allowance for the next month.
We come back to observability. Since we're waiting for Starbuck, I just wanted to share some idea that we discussed about delivery observability.
Yeah.
So again, like the idea of this deployment dashboard is that we might have a dashboard for each deployment. And also for each deployment, not only the metrics that is usable, but also it would be nice to add traces and logs. And if something happens with, I don't know, we have spike or we have like a long living pipeline, and we really want to like track that, we will be able to drill down to the logs and traces, and instead of having like a Jaeger and whatever we use for logs, Kibana, we can actually add Elasticsearch and Jaeger as a data source for Grafana, and then in one dashboard we can have like everything visible with drill downs, with comparison, with correlations between spikes in the metrics and traces and the logs. This is one thing that kind of come into like one idea that we discussed. And also second idea was I think you already saw my comment on this epic about DORA metrics. Currently, I think that our deployment metrics and the dashboards, they are kind of sparse, and the idea would be not within this epic, because this epic is only for about deployments themselves and tracking inefficiency in the deployments. But in general, I think that would be nice to have a DORA metric dashboard as an overall overview of the status of the delivery, because I know only one good kind of status overview, which is DORA metrics. If you know better, like if you know more standard ways to track the delivery, I like feel free to add your comments. But I think the DORA metrics is like it's like an industry standard for delivery, for tracking the delivery. And the idea would be to have like a bird eye view for the DORA metrics, where you can see like the overall status and delivery, and you can drill down within a particular deployments and see like how is like if you have like spiking delivery or whatever, you can like drill down to the deployment metric, and you can also correlate the dashboard within deployment dashboards. Sorry, you can also correlate the metrics with logs and traces within one dashboard. So not have like and the idea is not have like a multiple dashboards that are not connected together, but having like the overview dashboard with possibility to get more info from other dashboards, which is linked to the main dashboard. That's what idea we are like flying around, and we discussed with Ahmad and Ruben.
So just in the interest of time, I'm going to say I think this sounds very interesting, and maybe if there's an issue or someone, like we could ping delivery, we could discuss. I love the idea of joined up dashboards. Let's take care around dog fooding, since we have the DORA metrics in the product. That's probably the only one where we might just want to think about how those will line up.
That's the tricky one. The DORA metrics, we probably cannot use DORA metrics because in the GitLab, because DORA metrics, they are per project.
Let us take this async, because I think these are great dog fooding things where we can actually feedback. Just in the interest of time, I do want to move on because I want to get to the social part as well. So Ruben, I think you'll have to step in because I don't think Skarbek's returning. So
yeah, sure.
You mind just giving us a bit of overview? Thanks.
Okay, so so we had a pretty good week in terms of lack of incidents, but I think on 15th and on 17th, we missed promoting quite a lot of packages. So on 15th, on both the days, I think we had like 3 packages that could have been promoted that we didn't. And we also had a couple of packages that had failures that either passed on retry or yeah, I think they passed on retry, but it was the next auto deploy pipeline was already running, so it was too late to continue that one. But otherwise, it was a good week. We could consider reducing the number of packages we are tagging, but I'm not sure if there's any benefit to that. I don't know if the cost benefit will be significant enough to consider. But yeah.
So this is an interesting point, right? So I think that this point is not really important, the cost of packaging, but more the cognitive load of release managers, right? So when I was doing my last shift, we were more concerned about every release manager having a kind of a comfortable workflow throughout their day, and so that they will not receive more packages than what they could actually manage and things like that. So this is probably another way to look at the number of packages.
Yeah, I think this will affect Graham the most because since he's like a permanent release manager, he has like days where he concentrates on his work, and so this will probably affect him more. Yeah. Deployment frequency looks the same as last week. No big reduction, no big increase either. And lead time. Lead time also looks the same. 17.5 hours. Oh, this is a median for the entire time period.
It looks slightly better, I think. It's just the line's just under the red. I think it is significant. So yeah, nice week.
Yeah. Deployment blockers. I think we had just one, 6-hour blocker. And that was it.
Nice.
I think this was in the American time zone because I don't remember it. Other than that, we didn't have any CRs either.
Awesome.
And that's it, I think.
Great.
Yeah.
Cool. And then Scarbeck's added onto the agenda a couple of things to celebrate, which is awesome. And Scarbeck's back. Hey, Scarbeck.
Yeah, sorry.
That's right.
I crashed and then I didn't want to boot. But no, I just wanted to point out a few things that I think was pretty good. Like, chat ops going down was kind of painful, but that was only really impacting our release process. It didn't really impact all the deploys since most of that's automated. And then the dev instance went down a few times last week. But the one that really impacted us was not really impactful at all. Like, if anything, builds may have been delayed, but that's not something we could see if we can't log into the dev instance. But at least production and deployments that were ongoing when the dev instance went down were not impacted, which was really good. I did pause deployments because I freaked out at the second the incident was open, but later on I just re-enabled the deploy to continue because I forgot that we did this DR work. I do want to call out 2 issues. I think Alessiu's already seen the second one on here, but the first one, I'm noticing our deployment health metric that we leverage for a few things is looking less and less stable as time continues. I did finally start seeing this morning that there are some Git alerts that are pinging the SREs. So maybe we'll be able to get some traction from the get-go. But realistically, since we're the one that uses this metric, we probably need to start looking into this and trying to figure out what we need to accomplish for that. The second one,
I have to comment on that issue. Is our problem related to the bigger metrics issue that I linked on there?
I did not look at that.
Okay,
I saw your
because
comment. I just
if
didn't
it
get a time to look at it.
is, then there's already a bit of conversation going on about that because it's affecting error budgets as well. So
Perfect.
if
Okay.
it's linked to that one, then we should get involved if we can, but also it won't only be our problem.
Yeah. And it certainly is not already, because we're not the only persons that use this metric. So the second one was just something I noticed in some of our auto deploy jobs last week. It looks like Alessi already saw that this was a duplicate, so may mostly be non-actionable, but I just thought I'd raise awareness on it. So that's all. Thanks, Ruben, for taking over for me.
No problem. I will point out we got to test the situation where Slack is down because when the ChatOps account was deactivated or whatever happened there, all our Slack notifications started failing. So what I noticed was the notify jobs are all allowed to fail. So nothing happens if they fail, but the auto deploy start job has a notification in that and it fails. And we also got to test out the Slack down feature flag. So it works.
Some positives.
My niece was actually about to pick it up.
Get her involved in release management. You're never too young.
Yeah. So yeah, the Slack down feature flag worked as intended. And yeah, the auto deploy start job is the only one that seems to fail when Slack is down.
Nice. Cool. Is there any other stuff anyone wants to mention on this recording?